The air in the courtroom was thick with anticipation. Rows of spectators sat on the edge of their seats, murmuring in hushed tones as they waited for the trial to begin. The defendant, a billionaire known for his ruthless business tactics and unshakable arrogance, strolled in as if he owned the place. His custom-tailored suit, polished cufflinks, and the ever-present smirk on his face screamed entitlement. He barely acknowledged the people around him, as if they were beneath him, mere extras in a play where he was the star. Then the moment came. The side door opened, and the bailiff's voice rang through the silent chamber. "All rise for the Honorable Judge Maxwell." The room moved in unison. Lawyers, jurors, spectators. Everyone stood, showing the respect the court demanded. Everyone except one man. The billionaire remained seated, his fingers lazily tapping the polished wooden table, his smirk deepening. The silence turned electric. Nathaniel Sterling had spent his entire life bending the world to his will. With a fortune built on high-risk investments and aggressive takeovers, he didn't ask for respect. He demanded it. CEOs feared him, politicians courted him, and the media either loved or loathed him. To Nathaniel, laws were mere suggestions. Rules were for the weak, and consequences were something other people faced. He walked into every room knowing he was the most powerful man there, or at least believing he was. This wasn't his first time in a courtroom. Over the years, he had faced lawsuits, regulatory fines, and scandal after scandal, yet he always emerged unscathed. His army of elite lawyers made sure of that. But this time was different. This wasn't just a battle over money or contracts. This trial threatened something Nathaniel valued even more than wealth: his reputation. The stakes were high, but he wasn't worried. In his mind, judges were just bureaucrats in robes, easily swayed by money, influence, or fear. And this judge, a black woman sitting on the highest seat of authority? He barely acknowledged her. As far as he was concerned, she was no different from the countless others he had dismissed before. A ripple of discomfort spread through the courtroom. Eyes darted between the seated billionaire and the judge, who had just entered with quiet authority. Judge Evelyn Maxwell was no ordinary judge. Her reputation for fairness, intellect, and an unshakable command of the law had made her one of the most respected figures in the judicial system. Yet Nathaniel Sterling hadn't so much as glanced in her direction. He remained seated, his fingers still tapping the table, exuding the same arrogance that had carried him through life. The murmurs grew louder, and a few gasps could be heard from the back of the room. Even seasoned attorneys who had seen their fair share of courtroom antics looked uneasy. The bailiff's eyes flickered toward the judge, unsure of what would happen next. Meanwhile, the jury exchanged looks, whispering among themselves. Was this defiance? A calculated power move? Or just sheer disrespect? The tension in the air was suffocating, like a storm gathering on the horizon. Judge Maxwell, however, remained unmoved. She adjusted her robe, placed her hands neatly on the bench, and simply stared at Sterling. She didn't need to raise her voice. Her silence alone sent a message, one that said she was in control, not him. Judge Maxwell let the silence stretch, her gaze locked onto Nathaniel Sterling like a hawk studying its prey. The billionaire didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned back slightly, arms crossed, an amused smirk playing at the corners of his lips. He was enjoying this little show of defiance. To him, it was a game, a way to remind everyone in the room that his wealth placed him above the rules, above tradition, above the very authority she represented. Finally, the judge spoke. "Mr. Sterling," she said, her voice steady, firm, "you seem to be confused about where you are." The room fell completely silent. Her words, though calm, carried the weight of a hammer about to strike. Sterling's smirk faltered, but only for a second. He tilted his head as if entertained, waiting for her to continue. Judge Maxwell straightened in her chair. "Let me remind you, this is a court of law, and in this room, respect is not optional. It is expected. It is required." She let her words settle, her eyes never leaving his. "I don't care how much money you have, how many buildings bear your name, or how important you think you are out there. In here, you stand, not for me, but for the law." A hushed murmur spread through the crowd. Even Sterling's high-priced attorneys shifted uncomfortably. The billionaire opened his mouth as if to respond, but no words came out. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Nathaniel Sterling's jaw tightened, his fingers curling into fists on the table. He was used to being the most powerful person in the room, but here, in this moment, he felt something unfamiliar. Pressure. Judge Maxwell hadn't raised her voice, hadn't even scolded him outright. Yet she had managed to strip away his carefully crafted aura of invincibility. And she wasn't finished. She leaned forward slightly, her tone unwavering. You may believe that your wealth exempts you from protocol, but let me educate you, Mr. Sterling. There is a long-standing precedent in this court and many others that dictates respect for the judicial process. Those who refuse to stand have been found in contempt, fined, and in extreme cases, even jailed. Sterling's lawyer cleared his throat, shifting in his seat. He could see where this was going, and it wasn't in their favor. A fine was one thing, but contempt of court? That could escalate quickly. He leaned toward his client, whispering urgently, but Sterling barely acknowledged him. His pride wouldn't allow him to back down so easily. The judge's eyes remained locked onto him. So I will ask you one last time, Mr. Sterling, she said, her voice like steel wrapped in silk. Are you prepared to face the legal consequences of your actions? The entire courtroom was frozen, waiting. For the first time in his life, Nathaniel Sterling realized that money wouldn't be enough to buy his way out of this one. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Nathaniel Sterling's fingers twitched against the table, his smirk long gone. He had spent his life bending rules, rewriting them to suit his needs. But now, sitting under the unyielding gaze of Judge Maxwell, he felt something new, powerless. Judge Maxwell didn't blink. She let the silence stretch just long enough to remind him that this was not his boardroom. Then she picked up her gavel and spoke with a controlled, measured tone. Very well. Since you refuse to show respect for this court, I will show you exactly what defying the law gets you. She turned to the bailiff. Mr. Sterling is now in contempt of court. I am issuing an immediate fine of $250,000, payable by end of day. Failure to comply will result in jail time. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Sterling's lawyer shot up from his seat. Your Honor, that's excessive. The judge raised a hand, cutting him off. If your client continues to disrespect these proceedings, I assure you, this will only be the beginning. Sterling's face darkened. $250,000 was nothing to him, but jail? That was different. For the first time, he understood. This wasn't about money. This was about power. The kind of power that came from integrity, from justice, from standing firm in the face of arrogance. The courtroom sat in a stunned silence. The billionaire, so used to controlling the narrative, had just been outplayed. The courtroom was silent as Nathaniel Sterling clenched his jaw, the weight of his punishment sinking in. He had walked in expecting to control the narrative, to bend the rules as he always had. But Judge Maxwell had made one thing clear. His money held no power here. Slowly, reluctantly, he rose to his feet. It wasn't an act of submission. It was survival. He had lost this round, and he knew it. Within hours, the news spread like wildfire. Headlines blared, "Billionaire humbled in courtroom showdown," and Judge Maxwell delivers powerful lesson in justice. Social media erupted, praising the judge for standing firm against entitlement. Her words were quoted, replayed, and celebrated. Meanwhile, Sterling's empire took a hit. His arrogance had finally cost him. As Judge Maxwell left the bench that day, she didn't look back. Justice had been served, and the world had witnessed a powerful truth. Respect is not bought. It is earned.